Today is the seventh Sunday of Easter. John's Gospel, chapter 17, from verse 11 to 19, has been described by scripture scholars as the priestly prayer of Christ. In this prayer, he prayed for the oneness of his followers, that is, the church. He said the world has hated them because he was hated first. He prayed for the Father to keep his followers from the evil one and to also sanctify them in the truth, for his word is truth. The oneness of his followers that Jesus prayed for has to do with them remaining in his knowledge, in his faith, and in his teaching. This prayer for the oneness of his followers seems unanswered even in today's world, because today the church is getting more divided due to so many factors of doctrinal ignorance and heresies, factors of selfishness as a result of emotions of wanting to be popular by some individuals, and factors of scandal. Some have left the fold of Christ, that is the church, because they feel they have the gift of healing, and the only way to exercise such a gift is by starting what they may call today ministry, if you like, private church, that can make them popular. For some, they feel they have the gift of teaching, prophecy, tongues, and vision. Hence, the need to open their churches or mountains of prayer become important. For some, they feel the church has refused to appreciate their talents, or they have some misunderstanding with a particular bishop, priest, or even a fellow lay person. Hence, the need to live in the church is of the essence to them. In going to places, they may not have misunderstanding or quarrels. For some, they have left the church to open their own, for they feel the church is not charismatic in nature, or the church is not allowing them to do abracadabra. Some have left the church because they feel their prayers are not being answered, or probably God is not here, and they go to places they feel God is found. For some, they have left the church due to scandal, both within and outside. Yet Jesus is insisting in today's gospel for the oneness of his followers, the oneness of the church. Why is Jesus insisting on the oneness of the church? Because in John's Gospel, chapter 14, verse 6, he will say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father except through me. Being the way, the truth, and the life, this we must first know him truly who he is, like he will ask, who do you say that I am? Knowing him as our source of salvation, knowing him as the only way to the Father, will surely keep us strong in him and united in him. St. Paul in Ephesians chapter 4 from verse 11 to 13 says, as for his gifts, to some he gave to be apostles, to others prophets, others evangelists, others pastors or teachers. So he prepared those who belong to him for the ministry, in order to build up the body of Christ, until we are all united in the same faith and knowledge of the Son of God. We will never understand the mystery of salvation. We must be united, that this various gift that God has given us, as explained by St. Paul, is for the sake of the unity of the church, is for the sake of the building of the body of Christ, and not for division where you feel inspired that the Spirit told you to go and open your own church. That must be a wrong spirit. In this, 1 John chapter 4, verse 11 to 12 summarizes for us the knowledge of Christ that can keep us one in his one body, or keep us one in his faith and knowledge, when it reads, Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God abides in us. It is the love of God that will make us keep the unity of the Spirit in the gifts we have received. As St. Paul will say, there are different kinds of gifts, but same Spirit and same Lord. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4 to 12. The oneness of the followers of Christ must first be in our knowledge of Him as the only true way, the truth, and the life. This knowledge should immune us from selfish theories and teachings that has led so many emotionally astray into building business centers they may call churches. Because the unity of the gifts we receive are to keep us together as one church. Any spirit that asks you to leave the church where you have been born and then going out and building your own must be a false spirit. It must be emotion and not truly the Spirit of God. Because the Spirit of God always brings about the unity of His church. When we fail to live truly to Christ's knowledge of salvation, God will remove us from His fold, like He removed Judas Iscariot, who was carried away by emotions, and be replaced with Matthias, as seen in the first reading of today. When you are not productive, be ready to be replaced. And this will be the principle of every sane society, of every understanding society. God did not allow Judas Iscariot to continue in his fold because he wasn't productive. He was not keeping the unity of the church. Let us therefore learn to be sensitive in growing in the oneness of the church, in keeping the faith, in keeping the knowledge, and in keeping the understanding that Jesus alone is our source of salvation. I pray like Christ prayed today for our oneness, for our allowing the Spirit of God to always lead us, for the unity of the church and for the salvation of mankind through Christ our Lord.